Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the ParentCamp Podcast. I am April Draine, and today we have the wonderful Miss Julie Powell, the president of ParentCamp, and we are not alone today. We have a special guest, Mr. Matthew Morrison. He has so much great information, guys, that we just can't wait for you all to hear more about who he is and what he does in the community in the state of Delaware. Julie, welcome.
Hey, thanks, April. I'm so excited that we're talking to Matt today.
Me too.
I got to meet Matt at one of our schools in Delaware, Aspira Academy. He's facilitated for us, and he runs this fantastic organization. So I cannot wait for our listeners to hear Matt's story.
Awesome. Matthew, or Matt for today. We'll just call you Matt today because you feel like a friend. Matt, welcome to the ParentCamp Podcast. Can you say hello to our listeners for us?
Yes, thank you, April and Julie. Yes, once again, thank you for having me here at this podcast. It's just so great to have this opportunity to share my experience and my connection with ParentCamp and naturally, of course, with Aspira Academy.
Awesome. So go ahead and let's just introduce you to our listeners. We want to hear more about you. Just tell us more about who you are, what you do there in the state of Delaware. We know you personally as one of our community partners with ParentCamp by facilitating at Aspira, but tell the listeners more about who you are and what you do there in the state of Delaware.
Yes, so I'm Matt Morrison. I am the executive director here at the Delaware Regional Dream Center and have been since February of 22. And before that, for 14 years, I was the supervisor in the Level 1 Trauma Center, pediatric hospital, A.I. DuPont Hospital for Children in Wilmington, and where I facilitated and helped with the flow of patients in and out of our emergency department. With that, I also developed a global missions group called Missions for Life, another nonprofit where we would travel to and from Mexico multiple times a year with doctors and nurses, nursing students, and other faith-based organizations that would go and administer medications and health to the indigenous populations in the central portion of Mexico. With that experience of going into communities and helping those that might be struggling with some of the basic necessities in life, during the pandemic, the Delaware Regional Dream Center was birthed here in Newark, Delaware. They are affiliated with the other dream centers that are scattered throughout the United States, the main campus being in Los Angeles, the main Dream Center. There's about 33 dream centers on the East Coast here, and the Delaware Regional Dream Center is the only one in Delaware. The closest and the next one is in Philadelphia. So we started in March of 2020 in the midst of the pandemic with area schools, since the children were being dismissed from the schools and headed home. The Dream Center started with little boxes of hope. And these boxes of hope had non-perishable food items and snacks and some basic resources that parents could utilize when they would come to the school to pick up the school lunches that were still being offered to the students that they would have to drive up. So they would drive up and pick up their school food lunches, and we would provide them also with an additional box of hope. That relationship in the elementary schools in the Red Clay, Colonial, and Christiana School District grew to about 8 different elementary schools, with Aspira Academy being one of the first charter schools that we were introduced to and able to connect with. The Dream Center grew from 20 to 30 boxes a week to well over 200 boxes a week.
Wow.
And then we expanded twice. We purchased a 1,700 square foot warehouse in 21, and then about 9 months later, we outgrew that warehouse and we grew into the 5,000 square foot warehouse directly across the street, just down next door to Aspira. So it really worked out logistically for us to be so close to the school and being able to
Yeah.
impart what we could as a community member to be a representative at Aspira, and then also to then become introduced to Julie and Parent Camp. And from there, it grew to where I became a facilitator. And having that, Aspira Academy is a bilingual school. So I do have a connection with the Latina community in Mexico. So it kind of was very fitting that we were able to work together in that regard. So I'm very thankful for that.
Oh my goodness. Okay. A lot of good stuff. And you started off. You mentioned first that you started off at a pediatric hospital or working in a pediatric area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What caused you or what led you to transition from that particular role to what you're doing now in the city or the state of Delaware in your local community?
In 2019, I was given the Synergy Award at DuPont Hospital for my missions work, my medical missions work in Mexico. So at the time, DuPont had a global health department, and so I was encouraged, and with letters of acceptance, I was able to take my master's at Johns Hopkins University, Bloomberg School of Public Health, where I received a degree in global health community-based primary care. So
Mm.
coupling that with my nursing degree, along with my work in Mexico with a nonprofit, I was going to transition out of the trauma center emergency department into the global health department. But then we all know what happened in 2021. And so at the end of 21, I took some time off, and because I had spent already 13 and a half, almost 14 years in the trauma center, I felt a need for to transition into global health. And with travel being shut down, and then February, this position opened up as an executive director at the Dream Center, where we were doing community health outreach, which is what the Dream Center is for. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, volunteer driven charitable organization that finds the forgotten and helps them build a firm foundation so that they will flourish in life. And the purpose of the Dream Center is to provide community outreach to individuals by coordinating services and referrals that deliver life necessities, and thus motivating those individuals to achieve a more fulfilled standard of living. And I create, develop, and sustain programs through an implementation process to address those community needs specifically. So I kind of was already doing that in Mexico, and through my nursing degree and through the global health department, I was already operating on that beginning stages. So this was like a great fit for the Dream Center and myself to
Definitely.
utilize all my skills, because we work with the boxes of hope, which we have now graduated to a point where the nutrition aspects, where we have to evaluate what food contents go in there that's more
Oh, wow.
beneficial for families. So there's a lot of that background that are used. And then there's the social component as well. So we, do a tremendous amount of work here in that the Dream Center is not just a food pantry or a food resource, but we also are a resource to schools and other organizations. We are currently in two other schools right now setting up their food pantries, and a third one, there's a Votech in Wilmington that we're also working to set up a food pantry in their school as well. But aside from the food pantry portion of it, we're also um, confronted with the reality post pandemic of mental health and the struggles of life that people are encountering with that. And so we started January of last year, or in 2024, we're still there. um, we opened up free counseling, mental health counseling called Living Free.
Mm.
So if people are feeling trapped with life struggles, they can join people to help them overcome life controlling issues with three supported programs that we have. We have the Stepping into Freedom, And this is a 12-step program offering help to anyone struggling with life-controlling problems like drug addiction, alcoholism, sexual addiction, gambling, or workaholism, and take your first step into freedom with a 12-week course. Then we have, if you graduate that, then you move into walking in freedom. That's a
Oh,
12-week
wow.
study, private group where that people can come together and become freedom free or walk in freedom from those life controlling issues. And then we've just, in the last couple of weeks, we're developing this because on January 13th, we're going to roll out Hope After Trauma. It's a
Mm.
four it's a 4-week course, helps you identify trauma and move forward to wholeness. The group focuses on helping you find healing from traumatic experiences that may have left deep emotional wounds. And this could be anything from losing your job, a divorce, an abusive relationship, or something that happened in your childhood from a parent or step parent that has caused you to have a repetitive stumbling in your life and you can't figure out why you keep having these problems. It's more than likely related to a trauma offense that happened in your past, and we're going to help people deal with those issues. Now, the Dream Center, knowing full and well and knowing my background in nursing and then having experienced this with the traumatic events that happened in the emergency department, knowing that if we're going to open the doors to counseling people for free, we're still going to come across people that are above our pay grade, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that same point, I wrote a grant and received a grant from the state of Delaware, their opioid abatement program, and that helped us, along with a bond bill, to help us retrofit the warehouse space adjacent to us, Unit 12. So another 2,000 square foot space that I helped develop that into a counseling office called the Naaman Center. And the Naaman Center is the first one in the state of Delaware. They're basically um, they're in western or eastern Pennsylvania right now, and they have been for over 50 years. And they're an outpatient drug counseling center. And so they have come to Delaware. We've partnered with them. I've outfitted the offices for them. And this is an intensive outpatient office that does counseling, has psychiatric evaluations. They can do inpatient
Wow.
referrals as well as
Wow.
send you to a detox program, knowing full and well that once we opened our doors to a free counseling mental health session, we were going to come across these
Hmm.
people that we don't want to turn anyone away, but we still want
Yeah.
to be able to give
Right.
them a hand up. And we would then refer them to the Naaman Center, which is be located directly next door to the Dream Center, and then they could take the ball from there. So, and they accept Medicare, Medicaid, and other private insurances for payment, where our counseling sessions are free.
Oh my
So,
gosh, so
so
much to unpack
yeah.
in
No.
that.
So our so if you want to know the Dream Center in a nutshell, we're just basically a resource center that helps provide food and necessary items to families within the community, to the area schools and other faith-based groups, and then we also have the component of mental health therapy counseling here at the Dream Center. Those are our two main focuses.
Well, and I just, so we had a parent camp a couple weeks ago in downtown Wilmington, and when you're talking about the trauma part, it is so important and relevant right now because
Yeah.
many of the parents who attended that parent camp were like, I don't want to repeat the cycle. I had a traumatic
Mm.
childhood. I don't want to do that to my child.
Yeah.
And so to have a resource like you is just so important for the cycle to be broken.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's a very important. Um, yeah, of course, I can send that to you, Julie, the flyer with the QR code, so
Awesome.
people can sign up. We're taking that on January 13th. Classes are starting.
Matt, I'm writing as you're talking, and it's like, okay, I don't even know which direction I really want to go because there's so much information. But
Agreed.
it's good for our listeners to be able to know that there is a resource in the area there in the state of Delaware, especially through the Dream Center. What does it look like when you all partner directly with the schools? I know you mentioned the boxes of hope. Is that boxes of hope is what you all call them?
Yes.
Okay, so what does that look like for you all to partner with a school, or how did you all even partner with ParentCamp? How did that come about?
So yeah, that's we partner with schools by reaching out and offering. I'm on the DHSS Delaware Health and Social Services Zoom calls every month, and then there's Kinship Community as well that works with area organizations to find resources to connect families that are mostly in need, and through that, the schools, school principals, the guidance counselors hear about us through those programs and then connect with us. And it's mostly items, hygiene items for some of the students, as
Okay.
well as some food, some snacks, some non-perishable food items that some of the students are maybe struggling in some areas, and mostly the guidance counselors would know this because they're directly connected to those. And through that relationship, and then through at Aspira in particular, Wanda and Lynn Henshaw, those two wonderful
Mhm.
ladies who are community engagement
Wonderful.
coordinators, they, she and I, and the ladies and I, we connected and we started talking about how we can help each other and writing grants together
Okay.
to help out the school. And then that's when Parent Camp came into the conversation. Says, Matt, we would like for you to be a community representative. So with that, that's how that relationship started. But through the other schools, it's primarily I give at least I don't know half a dozen boxes of hope that get delivered to area elementary schools, and then we'll do seasonal events at the schools.
Oh,
It could
wow.
it,
Okay.
it could be Easter baskets, coming up in April. It could be back to school backpacks for the kids in the fall. And then we have other events like we just did that concluded our Thanksgiving outreach event. And we did that this year through Eventbrite, and we had 350 turkeys up front. And I went to all of the schools first. And I said, well, here's the QR code. Let's make the reservations first at all the schools, and all the counselors can then identify the parents and the students who need this frozen turkey and a box of hope with all the trimmings in it
Mm-hmm.
to go to them first, and then we'll open it up to the community if they don't get full. Well, 2.5 weeks later, guess what? All 350 turkeys were
Right.
reserved. So
Yep.
we did the right thing by reaching out to the community through the area elementary schools first before opening it up to the community. And we had about 50 turkeys that we were able to give to just community members who showed up. But for the most part, yeah, that's how we did it with the schools.
Oh, wow. To show how interconnected things are becoming in Delaware. So Lynn Henshaw, who's at Aspire Academy, is a member of Rotary, and she is a member of the Newark Morning. I think they meet Tuesday mornings. Well, I'm in Delaware a lot, in Newark, and so I stay at the Courtyard by Marriott there in Newark. Fabulous staff. It's a great hotel. Highly recommend if you're in the area. Very involved in the community. Well, there's another Newark club that meets at that hotel on Thursday mornings. And so a lot of times when I'm in town, I hate to say this, but roll out of bed and go down to the Rotary meeting. So I was there a couple weeks ago, and I walk into the meeting and I've started to become friends with people. And I walk in and I see who the speaker is, and it's Matt. So Matt was at the Rotary meeting speaking. And I'm
Wow.
like, I know Matt. But then also that Rotary Club has started an Interact Club at Aspire Academy. So the community with great organizations like Matt and the Rotaries are all working together to support the kids.
Mm, mm. So Matt, that's something I'm glad you mentioned that, Julie. I wanted to ask Matt, what's the important thing, because it's obvious from hearing your background from working with pediatrics and trauma and your master's degree and doing global missions work, you obviously have a heart for people and developing relationships. Can you just speak briefly to the importance from your viewpoint of the interconnectivity, just as Julie mentioned, not just with what you're doing, but the importance of fostering the relationships as a community member with local schools the way that you all are doing there at the Dream Center. Can you speak to anyone about that, about the importance of it?
Yes, it's extremely important because um, as we know, as we raise a family and children and groups come together, there are many intricate pieces that have to be put together, and we are just, well, now two components of that, the mental health and the food portion of that. And we know there are many other things that have to be connected to this. And one of those things that we have been involved with, um, not not as close as we can be because we can't do everything,
Yeah.
but there are families that get displaced. There are families that encounter tragedy, and with that, if a person is displaced from their home financially because they can't make payments or something, or there's a fire, we're now wintertime, and we know that fires often happen this time of year in the home, and families are displaced, and we would like to have help those families get back on their feet. You have the Salvation Army that helps, you have the Red Cross that helps, but then the people need things like furniture,
Mm.
um, things like clothing. So, with that collaborative effort, I do know other nonprofits that do just clothing. There's other nonprofits that do clothing just for children. There are other nonprofits that do just the furniture. So, all of this together, working with like the Rotary Club to get the word out and then get the volunteers here to help dispense some of those items is vital, and it's very important that we stay connected, that we collaborate, and then through like what Julie's doing with the parent camp, to hear the voice of the parents. And that's what led us to do the therapy portion of this. And it's like we did the food boxes. We were doing this 3 years. We were giving it out to the families, and they were coming to our drive-through, and we could develop a relationship with them and understand what else can we help you with. And that's when they
Mm.
started to share, hey, my daughter's struggling with this, or my son overdosed on that, or my uncle, he's in trouble now with the law. And it's like we have a mental health issue that's happening here, undercurrent,
Yeah.
if you will, and we need to address that. So that's when we took the bold step to do that, and knowing that we needed to stay connected. And by doing parent camp at Aspira at both the East and West campus, I'm able to hear the parents because they're given an that's what's so great about parent camp. They have an opportunity to sit down, and we have, when we facilitate these sessions, is to share what is it that's really in need that you want some support with, or just share your thoughts and your feelings. And then when you do that, parents really start to open up, and we start to find out what's really happening and what really needs to
Mm.
take place. So it's beautiful.
Mm. I love it. I love all of it is so interconnected. What Parent Camp is trying to do, and Julie, you can speak more to that as well. We always want to make sure that people understand the concept of what Parent Camp is and what the model is. But the model of what Parent Camp is and what the Dream Center is offering and trying to do in the community, and giving voice by also hearing parents and their voice. Um, Julie, can you speak a little bit more to how just hearing what Matt just mentioned, even with going a little bit beyond and hearing the parents and asking that one question, what else can we do to help? What does that say, or how does that speak to you from the parent camp side?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the crux and the reason we started parent camps was that um, so many times family engagement is just information being thrown at people, or it's
Mm.
a session where it's a sit and get,
Yeah.
where we all have so many life experiences to share. I mean, just listening to Matt and all his background and his life experience he has, like I'm jotting down notes because there's things I want to follow up with him on. But then to have the parents there and the parents saying, I need help with this, and the school listening and responding and having
Mm-hmm.
sessions and having rooms where parents can share their experiences with each other.
Yeah.
Um, because we all learn from each other, and it's not just information being thrown at you. The information naturally occurs within the conversations.
So Matt, you're just like another example, but also just a perfect fit to not only what Parent Camp is doing, but it's awesome to hear of a community partner that's going not just, and it's okay to give and serve in whatever capacity you have. So if it's giving boxes of food, that's awesome. But to hear that you all have collaborated with so many other entities in the state of Delaware to say, hey, now we also have opportunity that in January, we're going to add another component and help more with the mental health side. And even with families who get displaced, we have so many different resources, and that's what we're trying to be, a hub for resources for families. So it's so much information that we can just keep talking about, and we're just grateful that you've given us at least this much of your time to share with our listeners what you do there at the Dream Center and what the Dream Center does in the state of Delaware. Can you just give a kind of a wrap up for us in a way where our listeners can be able to follow what you all do? Is there a website or ways to sign up, to volunteer, to keep your efforts going? Please give us all kind of ways to contact you and have our listeners to follow up with you guys.
Yes, so our website is Dream Center DE for Delaware .org. DreamCenterDE.org is our website, and that's primarily where you're going to a landing page where you're going to be able to connect with us through email, and then my email is dreamcenterDEMatt @gmail.com, and we have our Facebook, we have LinkedIn, and we have Instagram for the Dream Center. So Dream Center Delaware. So that's the other ways to follow us on social media and how to get in touch with us as well. And if I could just wrap up and say that it's important, I feel, that at the schools, because we do have in this time of financial change, if you will, that we've all kind of been working through the challenges, and with that, I just want to make sure that the volunteers' time and energy is being well spent, and that the impact that we're having in the community is really focused. And that's more, I think it's better, our time is better spent in the schools, especially the elementary schools, with the parents and connecting with them, so that we know that, like we did with the Boxes of Hope in Thanksgiving and the 350 turkeys, I knew that every one of those that we were giving out was a parent from a school that we had connected with, and it's just makes it more impactful. That what we're doing, we want to make sure that we're not just carte blanche, just throwing stuff out the back window and just say, hey, you can just pick up the pieces. No, we want to be able to go right to the people who need it the most and have the most impact. So that's my heart, and that's the vision. And through Parent Camp, we've been able to do that successfully.
Matt, we thank you so very, very much and applaud the work that you all are doing there, and are grateful that you all have partnered with Parent Camp, and hopefully people will be able to hear more of you at a future Parent Camp conversation where you're able to facilitate. Julie, what about you? Any closing remarks or anything you'd like to leave with our listeners? Of course, we always want to direct them to our website. So whatever information you want to leave regarding Parent Camp, please let our listeners know before we wrap out.
So we have a lot of parent camps coming up in Delaware, and anyone is welcome to attend any of them, because people are looking for support systems, and that's where they're finding a place where it's not intimidating. And so we have 3, here in December, we're recording this in December of 24, we've got 6 parent camps coming up within 3 weeks. So if people would just sign up for a newsletter, you'll see all the upcoming parent camps. Just click and register and go. And once you experience one, you'll want to go back and experience some more. And the school communities are just so welcoming. So even if your child doesn't go to a school, but you're feeling lonely and you need some support, just go to one. People are so welcoming. You don't have to actually attend at your child doesn't have to attend at that school.
I'm glad you brought that out. So that's awesome too, that parents don't feel like if my child isn't at that particular location where a parent camp session is going, we still welcome you. So thank you for pointing that out to our listeners. And again, Matt, we